All right. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Kyle Haugen, and I'm our District Rotary Foundation team leader. And welcome to our second annual edition of the District Rotary 5960s Shark Tank Live. And I'll be the host today. Last year, as Margie and Paul were just talking about, that's when we came up with this idea. And the original plan was to do this as a breakout session at the Conference of Clubs, but unfortunately that got canceled. So it was a good enough idea that we didn't want to just completely scrap it. So we did it virtually. And I think it was a resounding success last year. Three clubs, Austin, Barron County Sunrise, and Rochester, got a great boost in the projects that they put together. It was such a success that we wanted to make it even better this year. And now here we are. And thank you for joining us today. We invite you to sit back, relax, have a drink if you'd like, and maybe have some fun for the next hour or so during this Shark Tank Live. You know, when we were putting this concept together, we had three goals we wanted to achieve. First, we wanted to showcase the importance of the Rotary Foundation and the grants process so that attendees came away with a better understanding and appreciation of the Rotary Foundation and the grants process. Second, we wanted to create a way to encourage clubs that hadn't been involved in grants in the past few years to get more involved. And third, we wanted to give the sponsoring clubs an easy way to develop partnerships with clubs willing to participate in funding their project. And I suppose we could add the fourth goal as well, doing this in a fun and unique way. We achieved all four of those goals last year, and I think we will again today. We'll begin by talking briefly about the Rotary Foundation and the grants process before we hear from our three clubs that have brought projects forward. They'll each present, and the Sharks will be able to ask questions and provide feedback. Then we'll have a few minutes of general questions and answers at the end while the Sharks deliberate on their commitments of their funds. Finally, the Sharks will come back to give their thoughts and commitments to the projects. Before we get into everything, I'd like to introduce a couple people that will be participating in today's event. First, please welcome our district grant team leader, Margie Horning from the Stillwater Sunrise Rotary Club. And there's Margie. Hi, Margie. You don't have to unmute if you don't want.
Yeah.
There you
Hello,
go.
everybody. I've been talking to you throughout the whole thing, so I guess you know who I am.
Exactly, and you'll hear from her a little bit later. Second, here's our district governor-elect who will be presiding over the district as all of these projects come to fruition, and that's from the Greater Mankato Rotary Club, Kenny Gloster. Kenny, how are you today?
You know what, Kyle? I am doing darn well. I'm in the air conditioning, out of the heat and the humidity. Excited to get back to being in person, however, and start to come out to visit some of the clubs. So good Lord willing and the creek don't rise, I'll be seeing you all in person in the near future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the other person I'd like to ask to come on here and to make a couple welcome comments, please say hi to our district governor and incoming District Rotary Foundation team leader from the St. Paul Sunrise Rotary Club, Ed Merrick. Ed.
Thanks, Kyle. You know, as I visited clubs virtually this past year with the district governor message, I found the one subject I felt most passionate about was the Rotary Foundation. So I'm excited to be taking on this new role in the new Rotary year. You know, if you would like a real education on Rotary, be a district governor. No, seriously, you really begin to appreciate the genius of how this organization operates. The Rotary Foundation is the path, the alchemy that turns ideas and dreams into reality. It's the tool Rotarians use to make a difference in the lives of others. Last year, I thought Shark Tank was a great success. It gave clubs a platform to present their project and its importance to the community they were serving, be it locally or in another part of the world. In building their case for the Shark Tank, the clubs created an articulate appeal to successfully garner additional support from other clubs, or in the case of the Rotary Club of Rochester, as Lauren Anderson has demonstrated, other districts. I'm very much looking forward to this year's presentation. So Kyle, back to you.
Thanks, Ed. Now, before we get into the hearing from our clubs, we'd like to set the stage on the importance of the Rotary Foundation for a few minutes. You know, when we think about all we do as Rotarians, it's very difficult to summarize what we do. In fact, I'm sure you've probably heard me ask this question, and you may have been asked the question or asked it yourself too. And it's hard to give a succinct answer, but what do you do as a Rotarian? And certainly, I think, when we think about all of the areas of focus that we have, just think about those 7 areas of focus and starting July 1st, and they'll be, I'm not sure which screen I'm sharing here. You can see the right one, right?
Yes, it looks good.
Okay. We had somebody at the door there and I got distracted. Anyway, it's starting July 1st. There'll be 7 of them. You can read them on the screen with the environment coming on board. And it's tough to summarize all those because we do so many different things. And one of the ways that I like to do to summarize them, as we all do, is Rotarians, we create positive peace. What is positive peace? It's the fulfillment of all needs in a society. Where peace can be mistaken as just the absence of war or violence, this is a much broader definition that focuses on creating a fair and just society. When we think about what we do as Rotarians, it's really creating positive peace. This year, the Roseville Club did a project to install solar-powered lights for 200 households in Ethiopia who are in a rural area that are unable to get electrical light. This light will help their children get enough study time for their schoolwork and will reduce the dependency on woods and other fossil fuels for energy. Not only is it helping the environment and reducing the negative impact of smoke, but it's creating a healthier and a better educated environment. That sounds like positive peace to me. 2 other examples were 2 of the Shark Tank graduates from last year, the Austin and Barron County Sunrise Rotary Club. They did a project to improve parks in their communities, giving more people an opportunity to have safe and fun exercise while also being able to interact with others. Again, creating positive peace for those children and improving society as a whole. There are countless examples of how we create positive peace through our actions as Rotarians, but I think it's important to share the impact because that's the important part. And most importantly, the Rotary Foundation is the vehicle that helps us maximize that impact or positive peace we can create in the lives of others. And giving to the Rotary Foundation is key to make that happen. Some of you may already know how the Rotary Foundation works with grants, but I wanted to take a quick second to give a brief illustration to set a baseline so everybody understands how it works. There are 3 main funds that you can contribute to. The endowment fund on the right of your screen, those are, majority of the time, those are in larger gifts or in bequests to the Rotary Foundation, and those sit and are held in perpetuity at the foundation and invested, and the earnings are used for other projects. Polio Plus to the left, obviously those funds are dedicated towards polio eradication, which we've made great progress over the last 40 years, and certainly Rotary's signature project. The annual fund share is what I want to focus on when it comes to grants though, because that's how the magic, as Margie says, happens with grants. So if you give to the Rotary Foundation's annual fund, it sits at the Rotary Foundation for 3 years and is invested. Along the way, they use those investment returns to cover almost all of the expenses of what they do with the money. So at the end of that 3 years, nearly 100% of every dollar is put to use. And how it's put to use is it's split 2 ways. Half of that money goes to the Rotary Foundation's World Fund, which is controlled by the Rotary Foundation's trustees. And those funds go to things like peace centers, Polio Plus, and contributions to global grant matches. Additionally, in the last 15 months, they've moved over $5 million from the World Fund to Rotary's Disaster Response Fund, which was originally created to help act more quickly when there's a natural disaster in an area, but it's been somewhat repurposed to go towards COVID relief. And so a lot of that money has gone to deal with COVID much more quickly than when it takes that 3 years to work. The other half of the money, though, comes back to our district as district designated funds. We're in control of those. The grants team and the District Rotary Foundation team get to control how those dollars are spent. And we use those for things like Polio Plus contributions, global grant scholarships, and a district match to both district grants and global grants. So when we say that you have a say in how your money is used when you're giving to the Rotary Foundation, this is what we mean there. By that district designated funds, you as a club are able to say, this is what we want our money to go towards. And that's so important when it comes to the whole. So to summarize, the Rotary Foundation is the vehicle that allows us to maximize the impact we have in our communities and around the world. And the more money we have, the bigger the impact we can make. So it's important that we just don't focus on spending the funds, but we need to encourage members to give as well. Now that we've established that baseline for the importance of the Rotary Foundation, let's talk about how the foundation's grants work. And here to explain that is Margie Horning. Margie.
Thanks, Kyle. You've heard me talk about this before, but let's take a look at the two types of foundation grants because we will be entertaining funding one global grant and two district grants today. Okay, district grants. First of all, district grants are a tool for Rotary districts to support short-term humanitarian projects that benefit a community. As far as locations go, they can be anywhere. They can be local or they can be international. They're smaller in dollar amounts and thus smaller in scope. The short-term in nature, usually 12 months after approval, is an important factor. But with the COVID, we've had to relax that a little bit because sometimes it takes a little bit longer to get the job done, but we are doing that. International partners for district grants are encouraged, but they are not required. An example of this being an important factor with district grants is sometimes a village where a grant is taking place is so remote that there is absolutely no Rotary Club reasonably close to the project site to oversee as a partner. Because international partner is not necessary for a district grant, that project can move forward. And in our district, District 5960, we can match dollar for dollar up to $3,000 per club on any one grant. The maximum match on any district grant is $12,000. An example of that would be, say it's a $24,000 grant. If 4 clubs each contributed $3,000, the district, we could match that with $12,000 of DDF if we had enough money. That's the big if here. Now on the global side, as you can imagine, they are a lot more detailed. And I can see a couple of you smiling because they truly are a lot more detailed. I'll touch briefly on some of the major points. Now, as far as location goes, they must be international. They cannot be local in our own country. So they're going to be in another country. The scope of the project is much larger. According to Rotary International, the minimum global grant project right now is $30,000. And that means that the minimum amount in our district, District 5960, of club contributions is $10,715. And due to the matches that follow, we would get to a little bit more than a $30,000 grant. But let me tell you, most grants are way more than $30,000. You do need a host club, and that would be your international partner in the country where that grant is taking place. And of course, the grant concept has to fit in one of Rotary's 7 areas of focus. And there are many, many tools that allow you to dig in and figure out what can I do in the area of focus that I'm choosing. And the area of focus policy statements is one of those great resources to explore those ideas. And there are many other requirements for global grants. To name a few, a needs assessment, very important, training plans, measurements, sustainability, and it goes on and on. But don't let that ever scare you. Just keep looking at the end result of all the lives that we have that positive ability to change. Now, district grant funding examples. Say there's a single club and they want to do a $10,000 project. Remember, the district's maximum match for any one club is $3,000. So in this particular example, the club would have to come up with $7,000 in order to do that $10,000 project if they're going on that project alone. But multiple clubs are partnering, which is my favorite, on a $10,000 project. Say you've got 2 clubs involved. Each one puts in $2,500 Kyle, can you zap over to get those things showing up? So if each Club A puts in 2,500 and B puts in 2,500, we could match, the editorial we of course, with our DDF of $5,000. So you can see Club A and B would have a lot more money to be able to utilize on another project or to help out another club as a partner. Okay, so at any rate, on the global grant funding side, this is where the magic really happens. Like I talked about before, the minimum amount of a project is $30,000 according to Rotary International. And the matching part is the important part. In our district, we will match dollar for dollar up to $25,000 with DDF, which is our district designated funds. And the Rotary Foundation will match our DDF at 0.8 to 1 or 80 cents on the dollar. Now they used to match 1 to 1 and they used to match clubs, but due to the great requests for funding and also the things that are going on in the world, like with the pandemic, they have run a little short of money. But 80 cents to the dollar for a match to me is pure magic. So, and also for you financial people, a pretty darn good return on your dollars. And you know where those slides come, or that money comes from? So all those funds comes from the generosity of Rotarians just like you and me who contribute to the foundation. So as you can see, the Rotary Foundation is a great way to leverage the contributions of 1.2 million Rotarians around the world to help create that positive peace that we're so passionate about. And you can create it in your neighborhoods and around the world. And the more we partner with other clubs in our district, which is part of the Shark Tank, the bigger the impact we can have. And that's why this Shark Tank idea is such a great way to connect partners.
Thanks, Margie. Hopefully our brief overview has increased your understanding and appreciation for the foundation and the grants process. Now, let's get on with Shark Tank. When we were putting this together, we reached out to each club that had not sponsored a grant in at least the last 3 years and asked them to develop a proposal for consideration. 3 clubs submitted proposals: Elk River, Faribault, and the Hudson Daybreak Rotary Clubs. We also asked clubs that have a history of sponsoring grants to commit funds from their club for these projects and to provide a member of their club to act as their shark. 4 clubs volunteered: Jim Stoll from Barron County Sunrise Club, Lakeville, represented by Ken Wentworth, Prior Lake, represented by Oksana Olekhishin, and Stillwater Sunrise, represented by Lonnie Stormo. And Oksana's laughing because I butchered her name and I've had it written down on a different sheet of paper for a month since she told me how it was pronounced, and I still screwed it up. So Oksana, why don't you pronounce it right, and then I'll just call you Oksana for the rest of the time.
It's Oksana Olekhishin. So easy, Kyle. So easy.
Yeah, it's so easy, especially when I have it phonetically pronounced on a different screen. So thanks for the 4 of you for being here. Each of our presenting clubs will have 5 minutes to showcase their projects. And after they present, our sharks will have 5 minutes to ask additional questions or provide a little feedback to help make the grant as strong as possible. Our grants team leader, Margie, will also participate as needed. The Sharks did receive the proposal in advance to review to make sure they had a chance to come up with some of the questions ahead of time. The order of the presentations was picked randomly. Hudson Daybreak will go first, followed by Elk River, and we'll finish off with Faribault. So without further ado, please welcome Hudson Daybreak Rotarian Ann Searles as she shares Hudson Daybreak Rotary's proposal. Ann.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I am so grateful to be here. I am going to set up the slideshow. All right. Can you see the screen? Well, again, thank you so much for the opportunity to present. Sharks, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much. And to have this opportunity with the Rotary Foundation is just, it's amazing that you do all this. And I'm familiar with this because I am a Rotarian as well. I am part of the Hudson Daybreak Rotary, and I'm the executive director for the new St. Croix Valley Food Bank. And I'm here today to talk to you about the growing need and our growing response with hunger here in Western Wisconsin. The title is Fill the Food Bank. Here we go. The growing need in Western Wisconsin, there's an increase for us to respond to the need. Currently, there's 3 million pounds of food that's being distributed across Pierce, Polk, St. Croix, and Burnett counties. We're falling short. We're not meeting the need. We are in the process of building the infrastructure to be able to distribute 6 million pounds of food in partnership with 35 food pantries and mobile pop-up pantries across the region. The need is real. On average, in our region, 33% of the people are living in poverty. Often they're working, but they're just simply not able to make ends meet and afford the rising cost of food. In 2020, in partnership with the Feeding America Network, Second Harvest Heartland, we were able to serve over 50,000 households. This year in 2021, our goal is to serve over 117,000 households. But in order for us to do that, we need food. Through our expanded hunger relief programs in partnership with the pantries, the schools, our counties, and our mobile pop-up pantries that serve those rural areas where we don't have a local food pantry and we don't have a local grocery store, but we have high poverty. The driving force that really is resonating with our community that has been such great response is that food insecurity rate for the children in Western Wisconsin. There was a study with the University of Wisconsin-Madison in partnership with the Wisconsin Food Security Project. If you take a look at it, in 2018, 12.9% of the children were struggling with food insecurity. It's now at 24%. We can do more. So what's our response? We recognize there's a growing need. How are we going to respond and how can we do that together? So we've been operating out of a small warehouse space, and now we have transitioned to a new larger food bank location in partnership with Feeding America. Often people will say, what's the difference between a food pantry versus a food bank? A food bank is a large warehouse space that redistributes food to the pantries. And then you can see in the diagram that food gets served to those in need in our communities. So we've been operating out of a small little warehouse, just over 1,500 square feet. We have secured a new warehouse space for the food bank, over 13,000 square feet, so we can meet the need. And here it is. You can see that we have lots of racking. We have the capacity to store over 86 pallets of food. And what this will do, having this food bank location, will be able to serve across the region and meet those rural areas here. We have cooler, freezer storage. We have the capacity to store up to 24 pallets of fresh produce, milk, and eggs. And again, move that product across the region to meet those who struggle. That rural hunger is real here in Western Wisconsin. So I'm here today, Sharks, and the foundation. Please help us fill this food bank so that we can reach those families, increase the accessibility in those areas of those rural areas that don't have a food pantry, that don't have a grocery store, but need that help. And we can reach them through our mobile pantries as well as existing pantries. Our goal here is to truly end hunger and increase our accessibility. Together, we can address this immediate hunger crisis as well as future needs. And today, I'm here to ask for your support to help us end hunger here in Western Wisconsin. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. And and just to clarify, your project is a $25,000 project, so you're asking for roughly, well, $12,000 from the district, but up to that extra amount to be matched by other clubs as well. So we're going to go into some questions here, and I'm going to start with Jim Stoll from Barron County Sunrise. Jim, why don't you unmute and go ahead and ask away.
Okay, is this funding going to be for the original inventory only, or will the food be bought on an odd need basis? And if it is on an odd need basis, who will manage the funds?
That's a good question. It would be on an on-need basis. So we have these smaller locations. I'll give you an example. Deer Park. It's a community that is a food desert, high poverty, no food pantry, and no grocery store. We're distributing food from our mobile pantries location. We bring a van, and that would provide the food for that food pantry location where they don't have one. The mobile pantry would serve that. So whenever there's a need in the rural hunger area across the region, we have many pantries that exist, and their local communities cannot support their own pantry. So the dollars from this grant would be allocated to reach those areas, those pantries where their communities cannot provide support and provide the food.
Thanks, Ann. Lonnie, I think you have a question.
Yeah, absolutely. Great job, Ann. Loved your presentation. What I'd like to understand is, so once the $25,000 is spent on food to fill your warehouse, what happens after that, and how long does that $25,000 of food last?
That's a good question. So being a partner with Feeding America, we have buying power to take that $25,000, and for every dollar, we can purchase up to $8 worth of food. So that is definitely the positive with a matching grant and that investment into this program. Additionally, we would be working with our local businesses to support and sponsor different communities, sponsor mobile pantries, as well as other donations. We've been casting the net and seeking funding, and that's what we would continue to do and tell the story of how you would be able to help us out and get this started. And then we can really hopefully inspire more businesses to give so we can keep it going and others in the community. So that's the strategy.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. Ken, how about you? Ken, we're having trouble hearing you. I'm not sure. Yeah, you're not muted, but it's not coming through. So if you can turn up your mic or something. And Oksana, why don't we, if you want to unmute, you have a question as well. So go ahead, and then Ken will come back once we get that squared away.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we got
Okay,
you.
perfect. Sorry about that. You mentioned schools and assisting children with their meals. And I was wondering about if you were doing that during the school year, and then now how are you pivoting during the COVID times? So how are you funding them or getting meals to either side?
That's a very good question. So there are many backpack programs that participate and distribute food. So the dollars would be used for those backpack programs that are unable to provide food or enough food to meet the need for their local communities across the 4 counties. Additionally, during the pandemic, and I have to share with you, we would not have been successful if it would not have been for the volunteers of the Hudson Daybreak Rotary. The pandemic hit, there was great need. The pantries were limited to how they could serve those in need because of the precautions that needed to take place with the masks. So they had to move to curbside distribution. What happened is the average age of a volunteer with the network is 77 years old. So what happened is pantries in these small rural communities that have been operating for years, their hands were tied. They didn't have the volunteer base, and there was concern because the pandemic was so new. So I worked with the president of the Hudson Rotary. We set up a sign up genius, had food brought in, packed food, and the Hudson Daybreak Rotary as well as the Meun Rotary helped meet that need. And they helped us with delivery, they helped us with packing, and we could not have done it. So we have been able to be flexible and to adjust to make sure we're meeting the need. And again, the volunteers were just outstanding and really pitched in for it.
Perfect. Thanks, Ann. Ken, we'll try to get you in there real quick.
Testing, are we
We're at
good?
about 5. Hey, we can
There we
hear you
go.
now.
All right.
Go for it.
So this is a startup, and so this grant specific is the whole ask. What percentage of the overall funding is this grant for currently, or is this the beginning of it?
This is the beginning of it. So this is, we have, and maybe I need to ask further questions. So this is a program for those pantries and those regions that cannot purchase food from a food bank to make sure no one goes hungry. So this will be an initiative that the foundation would kick off, and the Shark Support and other Rotarians help start so that we can provide the food to those high poverty, essentially food desert regions.
Great. Thanks, Ann.
Oh, I think he's muted.
Ken, you muted yourself back up there.
Oh, sorry. Got the so the continued funding would come from more local partners and businesses as the program continues.
Yes, that's the plan. And we do have some access to donated food, Ken, but we want to make sure we have enough food for these regions, and we don't have enough for these rural areas. And there's areas that haven't been served, and that's been part of the initiative to make sure that we have that food that we can provide to those high poverty food desert rural locations. So that's what it'll be used for.
Thank you, Ann.
Yes,
Cool.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ann, and thanks to the entire Hudson Daybreak Club on a great project. I can't wait to see the results over the course of the next year. Now we'll go on to presentation 2. You're welcome. We'll go on to presentation 2, and that's from the Elk River Rotary Club. And please welcome their members, Casey Mahan and Heather, I'm gonna butcher it again, Klewer. Close enough, maybe, hopefully, for their presentation. So Casey and Heather, your 5 minutes starts now.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. See if I can get it done correctly this time. Can everybody see it?
Looks good to us.
Looks good still?
Yep.
All right. Well, hello from the Elk River Rotary Club. I am board member Heather Cleaver, and joining me is fellow board member Casey Mahan. We are here in Dayton, Minnesota, and joining us is Mr. Brad Nyland, the executive director for our Shark Tank initiative.
This coming Monday, sacrifice while serving in our armed forces.
We're having a hard time hearing Casey. If you can come closer to the screen.
Thank you.
I don't know how much closer I can get. This coming Monday, our nation honors the millions of men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice while serving in our armed forces. Some suggest the fallen are the lucky ones, and that those who survived must endure the lingering pain of war for the remainder of their days. Now, we commend the Veterans Administration and Disabled American Veterans, in which I count myself, but their services are not all encompassing. Unfortunately, too many veterans are in need of help beyond the VA and the VAB in rebuilding their lives. Time is of the essence for those in need.
And our request is timely. Retired Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel Sean Alderman is the founder of the Magnus Veterans Foundation, a one-of-a-kind nonprofit created to help every veteran at no cost right here in Dayton. Dr. Alderman is the right person at the right time for the right purpose.
Casey, again, you're going to have to come closer to the screen.
Okay. I know Dr. Alderman, and I believe in the MVF mission that focuses on the whole person, the medical, physical, spiritual, psychological, and social needs of every honorably served military veteran and their families. He has assembled an incredible team to advocate for our veterans right here in Minnesota.
Recently, Fox 9 News reporter Maury Glover interviewed Dr. Alderman. This inspiring story provides the basis of our grant request, so please allow us to share this clip with you. And now the volume might need to be turned down on your end because this is a little bit louder than Casey and I'm afraid.
A veteran in the North Metro is creating a new space to help fellow veterans and their loved ones with a wellness center in Dayton, Minnesota. Maury Glover has a look at the first of its kind facility as it gets set to open in the near future.
Lots of love in this house, lots of family gatherings happen there, Christmas, Thanksgiving.
This sprawling estate has been in Sean Alderman's family for generations. But soon it'll help veterans heal. From the toll being can take.
It looks like our internet connection is unstable. That could be why.
My heart feels full because I know what this can do for veterans and their families. My heart feels full because just how the community has come to embrace us.
Alderman spent 31 years in the Army as a Special Forces soldier and medic. During his last years in the service, he participated in an initiative to help Special Forces in the Middle East in a more holistic way that incorporated physical and mental health with social and spiritual practices.
And I saw this thing work. I saw it take guys with horrible PTSD and make them well again. I saw families that were on the verge of imploding come back together again.
After he retired, Alderman wanted to create a similar program for veterans and their families. So he convinced his aunt to donate 37 acres on Diamond Lake.
Thank you, Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, 33 years in the Army.
Sesame Street Live to become what he called.
I apologize.
That happens. That happens.
Let's see.
Didn't happen in all of our dry runs.
Of course not. Technology. Well, you got about a minute left if you want to share a couple other things about what your project will do, and then we'll go from there.
Yep.
To pick up, and we apologize. The video actually told the story. As a disabled veteran, a retired officer, and a Rotarian, I know the MVF is a reality for veterans in need. I shared in the news story, and the site is huge with more than 37 rolling acres and 6 buildings. Dr. Alderman projects the Magnus site will be able to serve 1,000 veterans the first year and eventually up to 5,000.
And not every veteran has the ability to easily navigate these sprawling rolling site. We know the services and programs will apply to people of all ages, and there's an urgent need to provide efficient on-site transportation.
Casey, if you can talk directly into the mic. There you go. Face this way. Yep. That microphone's challenging. There you go.
Sorry again. After consulting with Mr. Nyland, we agreed electric powered transporters capable of moving up to 6 people at a time is the most critical need we can support. Mr. Nyland shared this need cannot be understated. With our support, we hope to fund 2 transporters for the MVF, and MVF is prepared to maintain all operational costs.
Our goal is to raise awareness among our partner Rotary clubs and through our collective support, raise $12,000. It's an achievable goal and we can do it.
So we as Rotarians have a unique opportunity to support our veterans. We encourage you to visit the MVF website and its Facebook page to learn more about their programming and upcoming events. As we reflect this Memorial Day, let us not forget those who gave the ultimate sacrifice and support the veterans that are still with us today through the Magnus Veterans Foundation. Thank you.
Thanks, Casey and Heather, and to all the members in your club. Let's go to some questions from the Sharks. And Lonnie, you're up first on this one.
All right. So thank you for your presentation. You know, as a billionaire shark, I spend most of my time in the winter in the French Riviera, but I know you guys live in the tundra. So how are these things going to work in the winter and the cold?
Thanks for asking. I've been thinking that same thing, and I'm going to kind of ask Mr. Nyland here to talk about that, because what their plan is for the winter.
Sure. Yeah, well, thank you. So basically, the electric golf carts, they will be able to work. They're going to be stored inside in our heated garage. But all of our road access, parking access, they're all going to be plowed. So there should be no issue navigating really the property here.
Great, thanks. Ken, how about you?
So as you looked at these golf carts, did you get look at your bang for your buck as far as multiple bids and cost of new versus used, and does the current proposal include our lovely state sales tax on top of that number?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think anytime we're going to do anything, and I think this really is true with any nonprofit, you're obviously going to be shopping for the best deals available. Certainly taking into effect sales tax. We have some other avenues. I have a personal connection with somebody who's going to paint these for us, so customize them, and we will be incorporating obviously the Rotarians here on the machines themselves.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oksana, you had a question.
Yeah, sorry. I know because the video had kind of petered out on us. It sounded like they wanted to get to 5,000 people, but so it sounds like single individual veterans, but not people with families. Is this truly just for those that are on site and are single?
Yeah, so no, yeah, unfortunately the video really tells a really great story, much better than I can tell. But no, this is one of the unique parts about this whole deal is that it's for veterans and their families. There's nothing else that treats the veterans and their families in the country. So this is really a standalone operation that way. So no, we and the other thing I guess that we missed out on the video is that we really are treating the mind, body, heart, and spirit all in one. It's not just a medical facility. It's a 5-pillar program.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks. We're just about out of time. Jim, did you have a question yet, or did that get answered?
Well, my original got answered, but are the veterans staying overnight, or is this a day service?
It is a day service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks, and please help me thank Heather and Casey and all the Elk River Club members for what will be an impactful project. So thank you for the two of you.
Yeah, we're all.
All right. Thanks. So now we will move along to number 3, and that's our Faribault Rotary Club joining us to talk about this global grant. The other 2 are district grants, but this will be a global grant. Our club members, Dick Houston and Sam Oak. Dick and Sam, take it away.
Good afternoon, Shark members. I'm Dick Houston of Faribault Rotary Club, and together with Rotarian Sam Oak, we're going to tell you why you will want to fund our water purification and garden project in Cambodia. 6,000 children die every day from waterborne diseases. We're going to reduce that number with a team well equipped to make that happen. Our team is made up of David Sauer, who was a diplomat with the American Embassy in Cambodia from 2011 to 2014. Sam was born in Cambodia and came to the US as a 2-year-old and still has family there. Natalie Ginter has experience in public health and is a skilled grant writer. I visited Cambodia in 2016 as part of the University of Minnesota group to observe the economics, political climate, and education. I sat in a classroom of a similar school to the one we are helping, and all of our efforts have been under the guidance of Baldy Stephenson. Sam?
Thank you, Dick. Well, and here is where the magic will happen. The project will take place in Meun Commune, which is a village of about 1,000 people. And the water restoration system will take place at the primary school, servicing about 600 students. There are 558 students at the school, and over half are girls, which is a very important number because in a lot of third world countries, girls have less opportunity to go to school than boys do. Here's just a picture and a video. We're not going to show the video of the school, but it just shows you how the conditions that the school is in. And now this picture over here to the right is where the kids get their water. And basically what they're drinking right now is mud. And these are the smiles of the kids that we will serve. And imagine, my heart breaks when I look at these pictures and see that they don't have an opportunity to have a glass of clean water to drink every day. So now the main project is a water restoration project. However, there are 4 activities that go into these projects there. The water restoration system, extending the pond, and also a garden system that the kids will manage themselves, and training of entrepreneur skills for the school committee so they can raise funds for themselves to support the school. The water system produces 1,500 liters of clean water per hour, more than enough to satisfy both the students in the school and also the villagers who need access to clean water. Now, in order to utilize this system for clean water solely, we need to have other water sources for the villagers to use for laundry, for cooking, or for cleaning. And that's where we're going to expand the pond that is in the village there so they can use this water source for other things that they need around the home. The school garden will take place right here at the corner of the school, and each class will take turns managing and caring for the garden. The produce that comes from this garden here will go into the school lunch program that they provide to the students. And if there are extra produce, they will send that home with the students so that they can have food at home. And if they're extra, the parents can choose to sell those food to earn extra income for themselves as well. And this is the team that we're working with. Over here on the left is the Rotary Sangkai Batambong group that we're working very, very well with. They have over 40 members there, and we've been on Zoom calls with them. We've been doing regular emails, sharing Facebook posts. So they've been a great partner for us. And these are some pictures from the needs assessments that they did. So we're going to have great partners in the village as well. Dick?
Our goal is $75,000. We'll raise 30, and 25 coming from the district and 20 from the foundation. We've taken the advice of investment advisors and not put all eggs in one basket. Our team has set the bar of total giving in excess of $3,000, and a former member came by the other day with 1,000. We have 3 current members who have pledged not less than a total of 5,000, and certainly the rest of our club will help also. The Cambodian people, both in Minnesota and in Cambodia, support our effort. Family members and friends have made a commitment. World Solutions Initiative Foundation contacted us with support. Sam and I made an initial presentation to the Early Edition Rotary Club in Owatonna last week, and we now have an invitation to speak to a Lions Club on June 1st, and we will present to more clubs. Last, but vitally important, is Shark Tank. We are confident we can raise the funds and all the pieces are in place for long-term sustainability. Thank you.
right.
Went 2 seconds over. That was the timer.
Sam and Dick, thank you, because I messaged Kathy halfway through and said, did you happen to start the clock? Because I didn't, but thanks for telling us when that 5 minutes was up. Sounds like a great project, and we'll go one more time to our sharks for some Q&A. And Ken, we will start with you.
Thank you, Dick and Sam. As we all know, I think access to clean water is going to be the next world health crisis. So is there any history currently in this part of Cambodia of success or failure with a project like this?
Yes.
Go ahead, Sam.
Okay. The Rotary Club that we're partnering with here actually just finished a project with Rotary Seattle to do the same project for another elementary school in a different village in Battambang province. So they have great experience with success as well. Cambodia itself had a few years ago went through a clean water project where they installed different filters across the country. But what they were missing was that a lot of these villages, when they had the project there, they didn't have enough money or resources to sustain it. So the project didn't last very long.
Okay, thank you.
I just pulled off some data, and 30% of Cambodia right now still lack access to clean water.
Great. Thank you. Jim, how about you?
And see, where will the water for this pond come from? And is it runoff or a lake or whatever?
So what happens in Cambodia, and this has been a cultural practice for a long time, is they build this water reservoir and we're to collect rainwater that comes down. And that's how the water continues to be filled. So we're going to expand the pond so it can collect more rainwater and then therefore have enough water to use. If you're familiar with Angkor Wat in Cambodia, you've seen that there's water reservoirs all around the temple there. So this has been a cultural piece to the Cambodian people for a very, very long time.
Okay, I'm familiar with the monsoons over there too.
Yep. Yeah.
Thanks. Lonnie, I think you have a question.
Yeah, I do. Boy, I got to say, Sam and Dick, I was really disappointed to see sharks listed last in your set of resources of where the money's going to come from. But it sounds like a good cause. I actually have a question from your application. It sounded like there was a sand filter prior to this that went into disrepair. And if that's correct, in my understanding, how confident are you that the village is able to keep up what looks like a more complex water treatment system?
I don't think that that's a problem. Sam said we've got, they did this at another village successfully. The other thing that we haven't said is that Sam's family is still there. He has an uncle in that area that's a contractor. And he has told us that not paid, volunteer, will oversee and make sure that the thing functions on a continuing basis. And so we have that going for us. They have the experience and we have the oversight from Sam's family. And we save the best to last when we save the sharks till the end.
Along with that too, Lonnie, I don't know if this was written in the grant or not, but I have a 4-year-old son right now who I really want to keep the culture and the language alive in him. So after kindergarten, I'll actually be visiting Cambodia every year with him to this particular school here, and so I will be sure to make sure that the water system still runs and still works smoothly.
Awesome.
That's great. Jim, I think we have time for one more, and I know you had a question that kind of goes with what Sam just said, so it's a nice transition question.
Yeah. How many members of your club, or does people go over there quite often from the club?
Dick, do you want to take this one?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm probably the last one to have been there. My wife and I went over there with the university group in 2016. We will have members that have expressed an interest in going over and seeing the project, which we'll probably do late next winter. And so, and then Sam was there previously, and then we had the ambassador there from 2011 and 2014. So it's a unique group with the experience of being in that country and affiliated with that country in doing a project like this.
Great.
Thank you.
And Oksana, you had one question. Go for it real quick.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
You show that there's going to be so much water coming through, and you've got the excess bottles there. And we're doing a similar project in Uganda. So I'm curious as to, do you have manpower to not only make sure it's fair and equitable that everyone gets excess water, and how is that delivered to the individuals in the community?
We're leaning a lot on the whole site and their experience there, and they have set up a system. Right now, they are, and they're very flexible with this, but just the temporary guidelines that they've set up is they want students to bring 2 liters home per day. The families can come and get water as they need, but they're going to set a specific day for every Wednesday for their families to come and take water home to meet their needs there. I think we're going to lean on their experience just because they've managed this project with Rotary Seattle before, and trust that that's going to work out.
I was in Pakistan in 2019 in the fall, and went with some Pakistani Rotarians and viewed the water systems that they're putting in. They've put in 17 of them in Karachi, the primary city there. And they have what Sam is talking about. They have people come at a certain time and are able to get a certain amount of water for each family from that. And so they regulate it that way. And that has worked very well for those folks. And I'm in fairly regular contact with those folks, getting information and advice on what works.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody. And I'll step in as our 5 minutes are up. So again, please help me thank Sam, Dick, and all the Faribault Rotarians for their efforts. So now we've heard from our 3 clubs and the great projects they've developed, and now we're gonna send our sharks into a dark room at the end of the internet, along with our District Governor Ed, into their breakout room to deliberate. And while they do that, we will open it up for general questions from the audience. So these things can be about the Rotary Foundation, the grants process, or specifically about any of our 3 proposals we've seen today. If possible, send them through the chat box so we can limit the amount of people unmuted at one time, or at least raise your hand so we can call on you. So does anyone have a question? And I'll start it with Sandra from the E Club said, nice job, Sam and Dick, like the personal stories, photos, and connection to the cause, and and showed enthusiasm, preparation in their answers as well. Anybody else have a question or a comment here while we kill a few minutes while they're deciding how to distribute some money? Or just raise your hand on the screen. I can see everybody now, so that's good. Patricia.
Hi, as far as the Faribault presentation, are they the ones that are going to actually expand the pond, and who did the research? I mean, the excavation. I mean, how are they going to do that? That seems like, and is that part of their grant that they're actually going to expand the pond? I'm just interested. I think it's a great project. I was just interested in that.
Did you want us to answer that?
I mean, I'm really interested to see who's going to do that, Sam.
Yeah, so they're going to have people there that works on the pond. This is based on the needs assessment that that Rotary Battambang did. So they talked. The way Cambodia is set up is they have a village representative that comes to meet with them. So they met with that village representative and his team, and they talked about their needs. And one of those needs then to create enough sources for water was to expand the pond. And they're gonna dig and make it 45 meters in length, 30 meters in width, 4 meters deep, and they're gonna create a gate that will protect the pond there, so that animals and other things can't get to it. So based on their needs assessment, we're trusting that and saying that that's the work that's gonna be done.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. I appreciate that information. Yeah.
Casey just posted that the Meun Foundation will be hosting a Rotary open house on June 2nd at 4:30. So anybody is welcome, and the address is in the chat. Margie, you've been around a lot of grants for a lot of time. What are your thoughts on the 3 projects that we have before us today?
They certainly are diverse, and they certainly all will, fill needs that are just really critical. When we think about water in particular, it's like, how much water do we waste that these people don't even have to have a glass of clean water to drink? So I think all of you can be very, very proud about serving the needs. And to serve our veterans, couldn't get better than that. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Margie. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I have one question, if you don't mind.
I don't
And
mind
this
at
is
all.
to the first presentation about the food
Yep.
insecurity.
Ann from Hudson Daybreak, yep.
Yes, because that's so important. And this is really just my curiosity. How do you define someone as food insecure? I mean, how do they do that? Is it because they of the lack of the grocery store or the pantry, or is it because, I mean, how do they measure that? So
that's a very good question. The food insecurity is tied to the poverty rate. And that I shared in the presentation of 33% of the people living in Western Wisconsin struggle with poverty. So that's a factor coupled with access to the food. You can be in a high poverty rural area without a grocery store and a food pantry. And that's a need that is real here in Western Wisconsin. So that's the driving force for this grant, to make sure we can bring our mobile pantries into those communities that are high poverty and ensure they have access to food, coupled with our brick and mortar pantries that are located in these smaller communities, high poverty. And the people in the community, there's such need, they can't raise the dollars to put food. So that's the goal and the mission of this grant, to make sure they have access and we're providing and meeting that need.
thank you. I appreciate your answer and good luck.
Thank you, Patricia and Ann. Casey and Heather, I think you turned your camera off, but I have one question for you. And there they are. If I remember correctly, Casey told me a little bit of how you got connected to the Magnus Veterans Foundation. And I think it's an interesting story in terms of showing how we, how ideas can come from any place. So can you share just real quickly, because now you're standing between the Sharks telling you how much money you're going to get, but how did you come up with this project, or how were you introduced to the Magnus Foundation?
I'm also a volunteer with the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, which is a state and national program that helps veterans. And I was asked to come to a ceremony here, and I had no idea what it was. And that I believe the aunt of Dr. Alvin turned over the estate valued at over $4 million. And that in itself blew me away. And then from that, when they talked about the whole program, what it's offering, that's consistent with my retirement goals as a retired Air Force officer, that I wanted to help military people. So I brought it back to our Rotary Club, and we had Dr. Alderman do a Zoom presentation. Feedback was astonishing from the club, that I had people say that they had never heard such a great story. They wanted to get involved, and so I've been working with Dr. Alderman and Brad, and brought Heather in, and also Total Electi, who is our new incoming president. And we thought that this would be a really important goal to help the veterans who have supported us.
Thanks, Casey. And you know, and that comes to show that all it takes is one member doing something in the community to get an idea, inviting someone to speak at a club, and all of a sudden get the whole club involved with it. And I think that's a great example there. So our Sharks are now back from their discussion. So let's hear from them about their thoughts in each project and how they'd like to commit their money. To help keep track of the commitments, I'd like to welcome Grants team member Paul Meekin here, who will be helping tabulate the totals so we can get some updates along the way. And Paul was along with Peg Duno from Lakeville, volunteered to assist this year. So he's learning on how to do this for next year. So we'll start with, you're like our auditor today, Paul. That's your role, I think. So we'll start with the first proposal, the Hudson Daybreak Rotary Club, and we'll hear from Oksana from Prior Lake first. Oksana, what did you think?
Well, definitely a passion of children and food shelters definitely need to be able to support our local communities as much as we possibly can. Prior Lake, on behalf of our club, it's the International Team and Community Services, so I'm plugging this part for them. So we've donated $1,000 to your project.
Perfect. Thanks, Oksana. Now we'll hear from Lonnie in Stillwater Sunrise.
Yes, representing Stillwater Sunrise, feeling a little richer with funds this year than I did last year. Thank you very much, Stillwater Sunrise. We are actually loving the fact that Hudson is doing this right in the St. Croix Valley where we're at, and we'd love to fund your project with $150.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lonnie. And for those of you that weren't here last year, Lonnie came to the table with $500 last year. We told them to split in $250 increments, and Lonnie may have cheated just so everybody got something, but felt like the little kid at the table. Let's see, Paul. So how does that look so far for Hudson Daybreak?
Yeah, so for Hudson Daybreak so far, we have $2,250 committed, $1,000 from Prior Lake and $1,250 from Stillwater Sunrise.
Perfect. And next up now is Ken from Lakeville Rotary.
All right, well, we're very fortunate to have very strong food shelf programs in the Lakeville area, and I think it's great you guys are doing this initiative. So from Lakeville, we're going to commit $1,200 to your program.
Perfect. Thanks, Ken. And lastly, here is our Shark Tank graduate, Jim Stoll from Barron County Sunrise.
Hi, I'm familiar with the area, and I was impressed with the, or distressed with the 20% plus of the kids that aren't getting food, and we're going to give $750 to them.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. So Paul, how much is that as we round this up? How much the grant commitments are a total of?
$4,200.
Perfect. So, Ann, hopefully that sets you on your way and builds great momentum in the rest of your fundraising efforts. Certainly there's going to be a lot of people that are impacted right in our backyards here in the district by that project. And congratulations and thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much. We're very grateful. We'll get busy with work. Thank you.
Perfect. And we look forward to hearing more about it. So now we'll move on to Elk River. And Ken, you're going to lead us off.
All righty. Well, taking care of our veterans is definitely an important task, and they've done so much for us and have sacrificed even more. So allowing them to get around this compound is a great cause, and we're going to commit $800 to that program.
That was 800.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Ken. And I think Jim's next. Yeah, that's what Kathy's telling me on the screen. So thanks, Kathy.
Again, I don't think I had enough money to give away, but we're going to give $250 to this project.
All right. And let's see who's next on my list. So Paul, how much is that so far? And then I'll figure out who's next. You can tell me who's next.
We're at $1,050 at the halfway mark.
All right. So let's see what Lonnie thinks. Lonnie.
All right. Yes, I feel sorry for you up there in the cold tundra, and I thank the veterans for all their work. So $750 from Stillwater Sunrise.
Perfect. Thanks, Lonnie. And Oksana, how about things from Prior Lake?
Prior Lake, you've got a soft spot with me personally, and I'm going to take advantage of the funds that I've got to help our veterans. So we are going to donate $1,500 to your event. Thank you. Your grant. Thanks.
Thanks, Oksana. All right. So Paul, how does that look for the Elk River project?
So our total for the Elk River project is $3,300.
Perfect. All right. So that will, Paul, I think that'll definitely help get things off the ground for the Elk River crew, Casey, Heather, and everybody. Thank you so much for coming forward and really becoming, making this passion project for the whole club. It sounds like that'll be doing great things in the area.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And last, we'll hear about the Sharks for Faribault project. And first, Jim, kick us off.
I've been over in that part of the country, and I'm going back in July, and we're going to commit $1,000 to this project.
Great. Thanks, Jim. And maybe you can connect and find a way to visit the school while you're there. Lonnie, how about you?
Well, I was so happy that the Sharks were at the top of your list of important givers to this project. And so Stillwater Sunrise is going to give you $1,000.
Lonnie, doesn't it feel good to actually have money this year?
Yes, and I do need to mention, for the sake of Stillwater Sunrise, after Shark Tank, we came in with additional funds when I went back and told them how much we had compared to others.
Well, thanks for doing that, and thanks for the continued support of everything Shark Tank and the foundation. So, Paul, where are we at so far?
All right, we're at $2,000 for Faribault.
Doing a great job. Math is working here, Paul. Good job. All right. So, Oksana, how about you in Prior Lake?
All righty. Well, we definitely know how important water is, and especially having clean water for the girls to go to school. And it's very important as they mature and get older to have access to clean water. So Prior Lake would like to give $1,500 to this global grant as well.
Thank you so much. Perfect. Thanks, Oksana. And lastly, Ken, that is, it's up to you now.
All right. Again, yeah, clean water is the next big item on the world stage. So Lakeville will contribute $1,000 to this program.
Great, that's great. So Paul, how does that look overall there?
Wow, this is outstanding. So our 4 Sharks have committed $4,500 to the project, and that'll definitely get things off the ground and going for these guys.
Yeah, and certainly with the, and it's not just this money, but then the clubs putting in funds on their own, and then it being matched by DDF, and in Faribault's example with the World Fund match from the Rotary Foundation as well. This is a lot of money here today that is going to be put towards doing good in the world. Before we get to closing, I'd like to ask Margie Horning for her thoughts again on all 3 of these projects, and Ed, as District Governor, probably ask you a little bit right after that. Margie?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it just, to me, grants and partnership, it just doesn't get better than that. So thank you, everybody who partnered and everybody who had the courage to step forward with a grant, because sometimes we think we can't do it, but you know what? Together we can really accomplish a lot. So I'm excited to see all these things come to fruition and to be part of it, because Stillwater Sunrise is my club.
Absolutely. And Ed, any comments from your end?
I would just echo what Margie had to say. I think it went well again. It was great, and again, you've got a nice platform to go out for additional funding, to fill in the gaps now with the presentations you have, where you've got it pretty much down. It's articulate, and you can take it forward. So great job, everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Margie. And now we've reached the end of our 2021 version of District 5960 Shark Tank. Hopefully you've learned about the grants process, what goes into a quality grant, and the importance of the Rotary Foundation when it comes to creating peace in our neighborhoods and around the world. Thank you to each of the clubs who brought projects forward, and congratulations to the commitments you received from the other clubs. I know that that'll help us make that difference. And for any of you that are watching today, if you'd like to support these projects further, please feel free to reach out to them, because they need more partners. Thank you to the Sharks as well, not only for participating, but for making commitments on behalf of your club to support these great projects. And please extend our thanks back to your club as well. Remember, these aren't the only grants that we will do in the 2021-22 Rotary year. If your club is planning to do a district grant, the deadline for submission of proposal ideas is June 4th, and all projects will be presented on June 18th, that Friday afternoon. So another great opportunity to see the impact that we're making with all of the funds from the Rotary Foundation. And one final deadline you should remember: in order to make grants as effective as possible, giving to the Rotary Foundation is the most important thing. So please make sure your contribution to the Rotary Foundation's annual fund share program is in by June 30th, so we can utilize those funds in 3 years and make even more of a difference in the lives of people that need it here and around the world. So congratulations again to the 3 clubs for their efforts and awards, and thank you all for attending, and have a good night.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.